Hi, this is Dorothy Guinan with Scrapbooking Quebec. In this video, I'm going to give you step-by-step instructions on how to create this layout. Measurements for page parts and photos are written on the screen. I call this my stack it up design. I place important page parts on top of one another. The photo is on top of the title, which is on top of the journaling. It's vertical, linear, central, but there are a few twists. Most of the material I'm using comes from the Scrapbook and Cards Today Winter Scrapbook collection. It's called Winter Wonderland. I also use some tools and material from my stash. Here's the material I've selected. And the white and navy cardstock, as well as the vellum, comes from my stash. That's from Stampin' Up. And here are some of the tools and other material I've selected. The first step is to create a frame style foundation page, and I trimmed the white cardstock 1/2 inch smaller than the navy cardstock, and I did some faux stitching. The next step is to create a mini foundation, and that's going to be a photo, title, journaling, decoration cluster. And that blue plaid paper is the foundation piece for that. I took a piece of vellum that measures 8.5 by 11. I did my journaling on the computer, and I positioned the journaling as far down towards the bottom of the page as possible. And I centered it, printed it, and then I trimmed the sides by 1/4 inch each, and I ripped the bottom of the page. Then I trimmed the top. So basically what I'm doing is creating a vellum layer with the journaling that will sit on top of the blue plaid paper. I want the blue plaid to peek out, but the vellum covers most of it. As you can see, I double matted my photo, and now I'm placing a border across the middle of the page. That's the red piece, and that's the first time I'm introducing an accent color. Up until now, everything's been kind of boring, blue and white. Now what I'm doing is adding another piece of paper, and I'm showing you both sides of it because I'm going to use this boring beige. It's kind of like a tone on tone, almost like a weave, but the other side has really cute blue and red mittens which match my theme, which match my page, but I opt for the beige simply because once this page is done, there's going to be a lot happening on it, and I feared that that mitten paper would take up too much visual space. So now what I'm doing is adding this border, which is going to go beneath my photo. And I would like you to take note that this border breaks the barriers. Right now I have a linear design happening, but this border just measures a bit wider than that blue foundation piece. And once I get that down, the title is going to go between my photo and the journaling. I also want to point out here that I'm using a vertical 7 by 5 photo, but this could easily be replaced by 2 vertical 3.5 by 5 photos. So here's my title. I recommend a large title here. I cut my letters out in advance with the Big Shot machine. I glued it to wax paper so I could play with positioning a bit, and now I am placing it to the page. As you can see, I want to control where my title begins and where it ends. So I start by gluing the letters down where I want it to begin, and then I start working backwards. With the word rink, I start with the letter K. That way I know where my title begins and I know where it ends. And I'm keeping true to my vertical design here. Now what I'm doing is I'm going to do some stamping, and what I've done here is I've stamped on scrap paper in advance. I am a very reluctant stamper, so I like to kind of know what the colors are going to look like and where I'm going to position them. So I stamped in 2 colors, but I decided I just liked the navy blue. And I'm going to stamp some snowflakes on my foundation piece here. This again is, I'm starting to break a few barriers. I'm starting to kind of break up the vertical design a bit subtly, but I just want to add a little bit of interest to avoid a 100% vertical design that's boring. But at the same time, I want to maintain the vertical design. So here I've done a few snowflakes, and even though I was careful, I still kind of didn't quite position it the way I wanted. So now I'm just going to add a few more snowflakes because I want it to be a little bit more apparent. And once I'm happy with that, I am going to adhere this white cardstock to the navy cardstock. And then I'm going to adhere my mini foundation page, that photo journaling title cluster, to the main foundation page. And this takes me a minute to position. And once I get this down, I'm going to start decorating my page. And what I'm going to do, and you'll see in a minute, is I'm going to start to reinforce this linear design. So I want to repeat the red, which is my accent color, which is my punch color. I want to repeat it on the top and on the bottom. Now I made myself another banner, and that's with the same triple banner punch from Stampin' Up. I made that on the middle banner as well. And I know I want to add this red, but I don't quite know how I want to do it yet, so I'm not going to glue quite yet. Those mittens I made with the Many Mittens Framelits by Stampin' Up. I made those in advance, and I'm going to pop those up with some foam squares to add dimension. And then I'm going to take a bit of baker's twine that came in this kit, that came in this Scrapbook Cards Today kit, and I'm going to add it to the top of those mittens. I glue it down with a little glue dot there. I still don't know what I want to do with the red, so I'm just going to leave that for a minute, and I'm going to work on the bottom decoration. So I made myself also another smaller banner for the bottom that's going to be centered as well, and I'm going to punch myself out a little red heart to put in the middle. The decoration that goes on the bottom in the accent color should be small. It could be a button, it could be something else. I'm using a heart, and what I did was I punched out a heart in cardstock as well, because the red heart I'm using is paper and I want to pop it up, so I wanted to just add a little bit more body to the heart, so that I could add a foam square underneath. So I'm happy with the bottom, and the camera stopped here and I started again, and what you missed was me adding this little label cluster to the right, and those decorations come from that scrapbook kit as well. I adhered it to the right of this banner, and now I'm adding some faux stitching. I used a template from Stampin' Up, a paper piercing tool, and a pen. It's the same technique I used around the white cardstock. So now I'm working on the top banner again, and I decided I just wanted to use that small strip of red paper to add a hint of red at the top, and I centered it underneath this beige banner. So you can see my design, the linear design is really solidifying with the red hits above the photo, underneath the photo, and underneath the journaling. And all of them are at different lengths, at different visual weights to add interest to the page, but it still is respecting the linear design. Those are some stamps that belong to this kit as well. It says The Details, super cute. I'm thinking of using them, but I'm reluctant. So now what I'm doing is adding some enamel shapes in gold to the top and bottom of the page. The label cluster that I put on the right hand side, there's a bit of gold in that label, so all I'm trying to do is repeat that in a few spots on the page, and I opt to add a few dots to the end of that red strip of paper, almost to tie it down to the page, and one to the bottom of the page in the middle of this heart. And now I do finally decide to stamp the details on the side here. I think it's my favorite stamp in that entire stamp set. It's super cute and perfect for journaling. So that's my page. So to review, the Stack It Up design is a vertical design where important page parts are stacked one on top of the other. To add interest and break barriers, add horizontal banners at different lengths in 3 spots of the page. And then add some subtle decorations offside, like I did with the snowflake stamping, as well as with that label cluster. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to Scrapbooking Quebec. Thanks for watching.